Call of Duty Mobile is an amazing game with all of the levels, different game modes, and unique loadouts. Even though the game has only been out for a month, there are millions of custom loadouts to create. With so many different combinations, you may be asking yourself, which loadouts are the most effective? So in today's video, we'll be going over 5 of the most overpowered loadouts to outplay your opponent in Call of Duty Mobile. Before we get started, if you enjoy these types of videos, leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to never miss an upload. Class number 1 is an objective assault rifle loadout. In terms of the primary weapon, I recommend the AS-M10 or the M4. Both of these assault rifles are unlocked very early on into the game, and they offer high amounts of damage with very minimal recoil. I have heard great things about these higher level weapons, but I don't have them unlocked yet, so if they're locked for me, then they're probably locked for you. But if you play COD Mobile more than me and you have them unlocked, feel free to try them out on this class and let me know how they work. Moving on over to the attachments, I always recommend the red dot sight. Personally, the holographic is too big for me and it takes up a lot more space than the red dot, and the tactical scope isn't for my play style. If you're the type of person who likes to play more slow and attack long range, feel free to throw it on, but if you like to run and gun, then I'd recommend the red dot all the way. For the final 3 attachments, there's 2 that I highly suggest you throw on, and then the final one is going to be situational depending on your play style. So first up, I suggest the stock. The stock is always needed for assault rifles because it helps with strafing. If you don't know what strafing is, it's whenever you're walking around already zoomed in with your gun. If you know someone's camping in a building, you can walk into the building already zoomed in. That way, when you see the enemy, you don't have to waste time pulling up your gun. So having stock is gonna help you win so many more engagements. The next attachment is the foregrip. If you have a hard time managing recoil, the foregrip is going to be your best friend. It essentially takes these guns that have low recoil and gives them even less recoil. So when you're attacking an enemy who's far away, you can laser them down while they may have a hard time even shooting you once. Now the final attachment, as I said, is dependent on you, so I'm just going to go over all of my recommendations. If you hate being on the minimap, I recommend you use a suppressor. It's going to keep you more incognito and your location will remain unknown. If you hate reloading slow, then throw on a fast mag. Fast mag, super clutch. It lets you stay in the action for a longer amount of time because by spending less time reloading, that gives you more time to walk around finding enemies and shooting them. Now the third and final attachment I recommend is the quick draw. If you're the type of person who finds yourself in a lot of unexpected fights, quick draw will save your life. It's going to let you pull your gun up faster, aim down your sight faster, and hopefully get that kill faster. For the secondary weapon on this class, I suggest the knife. If you pull that out and run, it's going to increase your movement speed tremendously. In particular, I don't find I use my secondary too often, so using a pistol isn't really necessary. Moving on to the specialist, on this particular class, I highly recommend the War Machine. The War Machine is just an all-out baller specialist. It's a grenade launcher, it one-hit kills your enemy, and you can easily wipe out the whole team within just a few shots. Moving on over to the equipment, this is situational and it's going to be the same on all of the classes that I mentioned. If you're playing a game mode like domination, or if you're more of an aggressive player in general, then I recommend you use the frag or semtex grenade because that's going to be your best friend. Now if you're playing search and destroy, or if you prefer a slower playing style, then you may want to consider the trip mine. You can be in a building, throw that down by the entrance, and that way you don't have to worry about anyone coming up from behind you. In terms of the tactical grenade, flash or concussions are usually universal, but if you like to try and capture flags in domination without being seen, then you may want to try the smoke grenade out. Honestly, equipment is really situational on how you play. For me personally, I always run semtex with a flash or concussion. Moving on to the perks, perk number 1 is going to be Flak Jacket. That's going to make it so you take less damage from explosives. This is extremely helpful when you're in domination and capturing flags because the enemies love to just keep on throwing so many grenades at you. So by being able to soak up that damage and not die, that is extremely helpful to you and your team. And remember, we have the War Machine on this class, so by running Flak Jacket, if you accidentally shoot too close for you and damage yourself with the War Machine, Flak Jacket's gonna make it so we don't actually kill ourselves and we can survive that blast. For perk number 2, there's two options. The first one that I recommend is Toughness. That's gonna make it so when people shoot you, your gun doesn't bounce around as much, so essentially you're gonna be more accurate while you're under gunfire. But if you're in a respawn game mode and you find yourself running ammo way too often, then using Vulture may be super helpful as well. Now moving on to perk number 3, there's two options here depending which game mode you're playing. For Search and Destroy, always use Dead Silence. As you hear me say in all of my videos, footsteps are super loud, so if the enemy has a headset on, they're always gonna know where you're coming from. And in Search and Destroy, when you only have one life, it's really important that you stay as quiet as possible. So Dead Silence is a must. Now, if you're in a respawn game mode, you can still use Dead Silence if you'd like, but for this class, I recommend Tactical Mask. Remember, this is our objective assault rifle class, so we want as much protection from grenades as possible. When you're in domination capping a flag, as I stated, the enemies love to throw grenades at you, so Flak Jacket will protect you from frag grenades or Semtexes, but it won't protect you from concussion or flash grenades, so that's why we want to run Tactical Mask. Now, that is the entire first class in depth. I wanted to go over this in as much detail as possible, so that way when we go over the rest of these classes, they won't require as much of an explanation. So class number 2 is my hardcore rush class. I recommend you run the PDW. This particular submachine gun has a crazy high damage and a super fast rate of fire. In terms of the attachments, I always go with the red dot sight and the foregrip, so that leaves us two attachments to play around with. In my case, I'm running a suppressor because I use this class in Search and Destroy quite often, and since this is my rush class, if I'm in a respawn game mode, I'm probably near the enemy spawn, so by having that suppressor, it's gonna keep me off the enemy radar and allow me to be a little bit more anonymous. And for my final attachment, I either suggest using the stock to stray faster, because as we talked about with the assault rifle, having your sights aimed down and being prepared for a gunfight before it happens is the best way to win a gunfight. But if using a stock isn't your favorite, then you can easily use something like extended mag or fast mag. That way you have more ammo in the clip and you're constantly ready to engage in gunfights. In terms of the secondary, we're going to use the knife again. Remember, when the knife is out, that allows you to run faster. For the specialist, the War Machine or the Scythe is going to be your best friend. We already discussed the War Machine, but if you're curious why I'm suggesting the Scythe is very good for long range combat. So if you find that the War Machine, isn't for your playstyle, or maybe you blow yourself up a lot, then using the Scythe is very effective as well. For the equipment, since we're constantly on the move, I suggest a Semtex or frag for the lethal, and the tactical, again, can really be anything. Moving on over to the perks, for perk 1, I suggest the lightweight, fast recover, or agile. Lightweight is going to let you move faster, and that's what I personally use, because that's going to let me get from one half of the map to the other much quicker than my opponent. But fast recover and agile are both good options as well. Fast recover is going to help you re-get your health faster, so if you're in a hectic area and there's a lot of enemies spawning and you're constantly taking damage, fast recover will probably help you out a lot. And with agile, this is best if you're running and then out of nowhere somebody appears in you. You can stop running, pull up your guns super quick, zoom in, and take them out very quickly. Perk number 2 is the same as the previous class. I recommend going with Toughness, but if you need out of ammo, using Vulture will let you recover ammo and you can continue shooting people. And for perk 3, I always use Dead Silence on this class, because since I'm constantly running around, I don't want people to hear my footsteps. With my rush class, I usually run to the enemy spawn very quickly. No matter what game mode I'm in, I'm always in the enemy's faces, so by having Dead Silence, that's gonna let me stay off the radar and remain undetected from the enemy. Now that's it for our rush class, so let's move on over to my favorite sniper class, and my sniper of choice is the Arctic 50. It has a high rate of fire and a high base damage. For the attachments, I never use a scope. I just like having the default big scope. It lets me zoom in further and the enemies appear bigger on my screen, so for me it makes it easier to hit them. But if you like running the little ACOG scope, feel free to use that. It really does not matter. For the attachments, I always go with the stock FMJ, and then you can use fast or extended mag. That really doesn't matter at all. The only tip I have for a sniper is don't waste your time with a suppressor, especially on the Arctic 50. I found that it just gives me way too many hit markers and it isn't worth my time. For the secondary, this is going to be the only class where we actually use one. I use the MW11 pistol, and any attachments are honestly okay. For the specialist, this is the same as the previous ones. You can either use the War Machine or the Scythe. If you want to be close range blasting people, use the War Machine. If you're going to be back and attacking at range, then go with the Scythe. For equipment, again, it can be anything. If you play slow, go with the trip mine. If you're more aggressive, try a frag or a semtex. And again, the tactical grenades can literally be anything. Flash, concussion, smoke, whichever it is, it does not matter. For perk number 1, I suggest Fast Recover or Flak Jacket. If you're sniping and you're playing kind of far back, people may try to throw grenades at you to try and kill you quicker, so that's where Flak Jacket would come in handy. But the perk Fast Recover is always helpful, especially when people are shooting you. It pretty much just makes your life a little easier, so that way you can engage in more gunfights. For perk number 2, since we're sniping, I 100% recommend Toughness. Again, when people shoot you, your gun won't bounce around as much, so that's going to let you hit your shots more. And when you're sniping and it only takes one shot to kill the enemy, hitting that shot is extremely important. And for perk 3, I just threw on Dead Silence. If you're in a respawn based game mode, you can try Tactical Mask, but if you're ever unsure of what to use for a perk 3, Dead Silence is very helpful. So that's it for our sniper class. Let's move on to class number 4, and this is our light machine gun slayer. My favorite light machine gun in this game is the M4 LMG, and there's 4 attachments I always use on this gun. So it's the red dot sight, the foregrip, fast mag, and the stock. Whenever you're using an LMG, having fast mag is the best because out of all of the weapons in this game, LMGs have the slowest reload speed. And since we're using an LMG and we move very slow, you have to use the knife as your secondary here. Whenever you spawn in, pull the knife out, run to where you have to go super quickly, and then switch weapons back to the LMG. The specialist and equipment is going to be the same as the previous ones, so War Machine or Scythe, and for your grenades, again, it really doesn't matter. For perk 1, I recommend Flak Jacket or Lightweight. Since we are using an LMG, we have a slower base movement speed, so Lightweight is super helpful, but if you're playing Domination and you're constantly getting grenaded, then throwing Flak Jacket on can be equally as beneficial. For perk 2, we're going to go with Toughness. Again, it lets you win more gunfights, so why not use it? And for perk 3, this is the same as the previous classes as well. If you're in Search and Destroy, always use Dead Silence, but if you're in a respawn based game mode, Tactical Mask is going to be the move. So that's it for my light machine gun class. It's pretty similar to the assault rifle one, so let's move on to the final class for today's video, and this is going to be my favorite class for getting kills. It's going to let you get all of your kill streaks super easy. You'll have tons of ammo, and you're not going to have a problem acquiring any of your score streaks. So first off, take everything you've learned from this video to select your primary, secondary, specialist, and equipment. All of that is going to be situational to what helps you play the best. So for perk 1, we're going to go with Flak Jacket or Fast Recover. Flak Jacket, again, protects you from explosives, and Fast Recover, it's going to let you recover from gunfights even faster. That way you can constantly engage and keep your streak alive longer. For perk 2, since this is our easy kill streak class, I recommend Vulture. That way we can just get more ammo whenever we're running low. Remember, we're trying to get a high kill streak with this class, and there's nothing worse than running out of ammo and having to pick up a new one. So perk 2, use Vulture. And to finish off this class, for perk number 3, we're going to be using Hardline. This is going to make all of our streaks a little bit easier to get. So by using this loadout, it's going to let you get infinite ammo through Vulture, and by having Hardline, it's going to make all of your streaks so much easier to earn. Now, that was the final loadout for today's upload. If you enjoyed the video, remember to leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications to never miss an upload. If you use some of these classes, please let me know how they worked for you by leaving a comment down below. Thank you for watching today's Call of Duty mobile video, and I'll see you next time.